All right, it's been a while since I've had a dedicated video talking about the real estate market, so I definitely want to get in there because my last video was a while ago and so much things have changed since then. So I mentioned previously about California. I wanted to kind of expand on that because like I said before, that is just foreshadowing what is to come for the other states. I'll also talk about home prices, whether I think it's going up or down now due to, different regulations that have been coming out from the CDC, which who knew they had control over housing, right? But let's talk about that. If you are a homeowner or if you're thinking about buying a home, you'll definitely want to watch this because I'll give you very good insight on the market and then you can make a decision if you should be buying a property right now or later. So keep it locked for all that and more. It's Crystal with the Cash Compass. All right, welcome back. I am here to teach you all the things that you should have learned in school about money, but for whatever reason, they forgot to mention it. Please be sure to subscribe because we talk about everything from personal finance to investing to the economy. Let's get into it. All right, things have been getting a little bit hectic, okay? We have federal and state level regulations in place to protect renters because what they don't want is people becoming homeless, being forced into shelters, and that actually grows this whole virus we have going on right now, right? Which makes a lot of sense, but there's a lot of holes in these regulations and I really want to talk about that right now. So on a federal level, and mind you, there are different state level restrictions. I will have that in my description below if you are curious, but from a federal level, people who are renters earning less than $99,000 at least through December 31st, and again, depending on what state you are, it might be even longer, but at least through the end of the year are protected from being evicted. That does not mean you're getting your rent forgiven, okay? They have a problem with forgiveness. We can't get student loan forgiveness, we can't get rent forgiveness, okay? So you're still gonna have to owe that money at the end of this pandemic, or at the end of the year, excuse me. And this kind of reminds me of something like late fees that banks charge. It's like if I didn't have the money to pay for that latte, I don't have the $35 to pay for the late fee and the latte. I mean, so if I don't have the rent money right now, chances are I'm not going to have $20,000 at the end of the month to give you. Maybe not 20,000, but you know what I mean. I might not have all that rent money that's going to be due right now. So if you are in this predicament, I'm going to give you guys some tips for what you should do right now to get yourself prepared. So keep it locked for that. All right, what if you're not renting, right? If you do have a home and it's a single family residence, you are protected through the end of the year as well, but it's only for government loans. So if you have a loan that you got specifically just through Citibank and it's not backed by the government, you on your own. Now, there is a few problems I have with this, but the first problem is a clear mismatch, okay? On one hand, the renters. For anybody earning under $99,000, which is a gross majority of the U.S. population, the median income is $34,000, okay? So the majority of Americans are able to actually not pay their rent. And of course, there are some loops you have to jump through. It's not just like, oh, I ain't paying my rent. Like you have to actually prove that it's because of COVID that you're not able to pay your rent. But stick with me. Let's say everybody was able to prove that, okay? On one hand, you have pretty much everybody able to not pay their rent. But on the other hand, there's a lot of different restrictions on who cannot pay the banks, right? The banks always seem to win, right? So even though your tenant isn't paying rent, you don't necessarily get a forbearance on that either. I mean, you're still going to have to pay up if it's a rental property. And I know a lot of times landlords get a lot of heat because people think, get a real job, blah, blah, blah. But I think providing housing is definitely a real job. It's not easy. It takes a lot of work, a lot of money to put in and to maintain the property. And it's not only mega corporations that actually own rental properties. I think a lot of people have, give landlords a lot of heat because they think they associate maybe landlords with ultra rich big corporations, but it's a lot of mom and pops that are actually renting homes out, okay? And they kind of put their savings into this investment and now it's kind of biting them in the rear, right? So it's average Americans too. It's not just people who are super rich, just trying to kind of shake you for all you got. And I think that's a huge misconception that people have about about landlords in general. And if you are in a situation where you find yourself not able to pay your rent, please communicate that with your landlord. Do not just kind of ride the back of the evictions and think you're going to be okay and you're not going to get evicted. I mean, it's really best to just kind of put that conversation out forward, okay? So that's obviously the first mismatch, right? Okay, and then the second issue is you're still going to owe that money. And I've been looking at a lot of different projections just about revenues and kind of the states and their different incomes that they think they're going to get. They're expecting even worse impact in 2021. So what's going to happen at the end of this year? We might still be in the thick of this. We might have a second wave. And then what happens after the end of the year? Okay, you got your Christmas gifts. Now get your shit and go. I mean, I don't know how feasible that is going to be to tell everybody, okay, guess what? Now you owe me back rent for the past, 6, 7, 8 months. It just depends on when you guys actually had this. Because remember, this has been going on since March. So now you're going to have landlords who haven't gotten money for months. They're probably not going to get money at the end of this. Let's be real. If you haven't been paying rent for 8 months, most people probably would be like, well, forget this, I'm out of here, So then they have to actually pay for that money to actually get you evicted, and then, have somebody else put into that house. That all costs a lot of money, so it's going to put a lot more pressure on the consumer, because now you have people who don't have jobs, they can't pay their rent, obviously they're struggling, so they have to kind of keep all the money they have. Then that kind of domino effect lands onto the landlord, who also can't spend that much money because they have to pay their mortgage, because it's not a federally backed mortgage. So now they have to worry about paying their own mortgage wherever they live, plus this mortgage for people not paying rent, and they can't even evict that person either. So it's like you're subsidizing housing for these people, and you cannot get not even $1 out of them until God knows when, because even when the eviction process starts, how long is that going to take? So because of things like this can put a lot of downward pressure on the housing market, but it's a matter of when, okay? We are seeing in some areas actual crazy spikes in home prices, because a lot of people are leaving more urban areas and moving into more rural and the suburbs to get away from all the violence that's been going on. And it's no wonder people are trying to move out, because there's been a lot of social unrest, okay? What might have started off as a social issue has just turned into, I'm pissed off, I need money, I'm about to go loot, So it's really have become very dangerous in these cities. And as you can see, the military is well funded. They had tankers coming out, okay? I'm almost positive there was no tankers in the middle of Oklahoma somewhere. So people are definitely trying to move out of those cities, because there's a lot of social unrest, and it's only going to get worse, especially if we see another wave of this thing, right? So we have, bigger cities like Chicago and Manhattan, where we're seeing prices decline dramatically because people are literally rushing out, okay? Some people are even buying homes in these other areas, and then they're going to let their other home kind of foreclose, because once I have a home, who cares if my credit's crappy? And I'm not talking about my opinion. I'm just thinking about what other people are thinking, okay? So if you are somebody looking to buy, this might be advantageous depending on where you're at, right? Because if you know that there's going to be some price decreases going on because people are trying to escape the heavily populated areas and you want to live in there no matter what, well then maybe if you wait a little bit, you will get a better deal. But the real question is, how long will you have to wait? In the 2008 recession, it took 4 years for the market to completely bottom, to where some places had as much as 50% cuts. Are you willing to wait 4 years to see a price, to potentially, because you're not even guaranteed, to potentially see price declines, okay? How faithful are you that they might see price declines? I'm going to get to my opinion on that in a moment. And then what if you wait a couple years and the exact opposite thing happens, right? And we actually see price increases, because like I said, if you're looking somewhere more suburban, you might not see price decreases because a lot of people are actually rushing there. A lot of people from New York are rushing to Florida. Hey y'all, welcome to the family. But yeah, so you might see prices raise in your area when you're thinking it's going to actually go down. So what chance do you want to take? I want to hear from you guys. Do you think prices are going to go down or go up? Okay, like I said, I'm going to talk about it in a moment, what I think and what I'm kind of hoping for. And while I'm talking about price rises, I want to discuss why I think there is room for prices to go even higher, and that is because of the government and Federal Reserve intervention, okay? They are basically wanting to prop this market up as long as they can. Now, some people think it's because of the elections, and after the elections, they'll let everything fall by the wayside. If you have not been in this channel long enough, I'm telling you, these markets are heavily manipulated. It is almost blatantly obvious. If you do not see that it's manipulated, you got to get your eyes checked, okay? I know a good doctor. Contact me. You really need to get it checked. Seriously, because there's no way that people have these like food lines going for miles, people unemployed by the millions every single week, and the stock market has had an all-new high. That doesn't make any sense. Nothing that I mentioned is good news, okay? So obviously, complete disparity between Main Street and Wall Street. They're going in two separate ways, okay? Things are heavily manipulated. And because they are, and because we are in an election year, things might continue to go up until November 3rd. Then after that, things might go down. But who knows? We honestly don't really know what the true motives are. But I can definitely see room for prices going up a little bit more before they go down. I don't think prices can go up forever. I think eventually there's going to have to be some sort of adjustment. But like I said, I don't know how far out in the horizon that is. So in some cases, it might not make sense to wait, because if you do wait, you might find yourself in an even worse position and even higher prices. And we all know that income does not keep up with the average home prices. I've showed you guys that multiple times on my channel, but I will put it here just so you can kind of see the difference in the median home price versus the median income, okay? It doesn't keep up. And a lot of states are actually really strapped for cash, okay? They are going to attack property taxes. I'm almost positive on that. We see California, like I mentioned in my last video, California is taxing people, collecting their assets all around the world and trying to say, yeah, give me some of that money, okay? And this is for the uber rich. So you might think, yes, let's kind of tighten that wage gap, take some money from them and give it to the people. But people don't seem to realize that the rich and those big corporations, they do not pay a lot of taxes, okay? They hire CPAs. They hire people who read the tax law. They eat, sleep, and breathe the tax law. They look for technicalities. They look for loopholes. And they move your assets around in a way that you will not have to pay taxes. So you might think that tax is being imposed, but it's really not, okay? People move to Puerto Rico to avoid paying taxes. People move their assets across seas. They do whatever they can to protect their bottom line. And I don't blame them. That's just a reality. So what happens then? So then states say, oh, I guess this rich tax is not working. Now we got to tax the average person. California is thinking about raising their income taxes to 16% from 13%, okay? 16% is damn near 20%. So you're taking a fifth of my check, and we haven't even put in the federal income taxes and the payroll taxes, which is Social Security and Medicare. I mean, just take the whole check. So then now you have people leaving because they cannot even afford to live there. So now you can't even collect income taxes. Well, what can't move? The property, okay? You can't pick up the property and go in most cases. Some people can take their homes and just kind of drive off, but the average person just can't do that, right? So they're going to come after your property taxes. Maybe they'll come after your sales taxes also. So when you have a home that you cannot move and they're raising your property taxes because they literally don't have any money, and like I've told you guys before, they cannot declare bankruptcy. So it's not like you and I can just go in and say, hey, I ain't got it. No, they can't do that. They have to figure out a way to make it. And it's going to be through taxing and through firing people from that work for the government. All right. So I don't think it's unrealistic to say that might happen across the country, depending on what state you are in. Again, in my description, I'm going to have a link showing the different states and like how they're projecting how heavily underfunded you'll be. California being one of the worst, okay? So in situations like that, you might see price decreases because people are going to be selling their homes to try to get out of that market. But then do you want to get in that market? No, I wouldn't want to get in that market if I know I'm going to get taxed on my ass. So if you're somebody who's in this market, whether you're buying or selling, what should you do, right? It's a little bit of a loaded question, but let's think this through. Now, if you buy right, and I believe this is a question that I've had asked in one of my previous videos, if you buy your rental property right, and when I say buy it right, I mean when you're doing the math about this property, whether it's a single family home or a multifamily, right? When you're gonna buy a home, make sure that the rents in that area can cover all your expenses as far as your mortgage, as far as your insurance, and things that you would have to come out of pocket to pay, right? If you buy it right, and obviously things can change, the rental market can go down, especially if we're in a depression, people won't have jobs, you're gonna have to put the prices down. So I'm keeping all things equal. Let's just say you're going in, you're in a perfect world, in a normal, non-coronavirus market. When you buy correctly, that means that if you rent it out, you would be able to cover your mortgage. You'd be able to cover all those other expenses associated with the property. If you do it that way, and if you leave yourself a good amount of wiggle room, then does it really matter, when you buy your home? That'll be a decision that you have to make. But again, if you're buying it right, then you definitely kind of lessen the chances of you having to run into any complications, right? Also, if you're putting more money into the property, so for example, you can put as low as 3% down or 3.5% down, depending on what kind of mortgage you get. But if you put down a little bit more, right, get a little bit more skin in the game. If you put down 20%, well, then you have a buffer, okay? So if things get really bad and the market takes a turn, at least you can still kind of sell and make a profit. If you buy and you only have a 3% margin, well, if home prices fall 5%, you're out of luck, okay? But if you have put 20% into it, well, then you have a 20% buffer. Prices could go down, 15%, and you'll still make a profit. So you want to make sure you're buying correctly and you're putting enough skin in the game that'll actually protect you in the long run, especially during these times. If you are a seller, if you believe we're at the top of the market, which I definitely think in some areas we are, you can consider selling, maybe consider renting for a little bit and then get back into the market if the prices go down. Obviously, this is huge speculation. Like, I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm only laying out factors for each argument, whether it's going to go up or it's going to go down. So listen to the video, maybe even watch it again to get an understanding and then see where you need to go. But if you are somebody who believes your home is a little bit overpriced or you would get a nice gain right now, it might make sense to get that gain, okay? If you are somebody who lives in your home for the past 2 years out of the past 5 years, up to $250,000 that you make in a gain is not taxable. So maybe you want to collect that tax, kind of sit on the sidelines and see what happens. I'm not sure. You got to think about what makes more sense to you. So I say all of that to say, I believe personally that we have to see prices kind of deflate before they start inflating like crazy. And I say that because a lot of the rich people, they make their money when they buy assets kind of on the bottom. I've kind of showed a chart before showing the life cycle of all these assets, and there's always a point in time where the asset kind of reaches its bottom, and that's where the smart money comes in. So I think that the powers in charge would want these prices to go down so the rich can kind of collect those assets up and then rocket the price higher. That's how they get richer. That's how the wealth gap kind of widens because their assets just keep on growing. They buy when it gets down here, they sell when it gets up here, and it just keeps on going and going and going, okay? And the average person cannot keep up with that because, like I told you, the median income is $32,000. You can't do much with that, okay? You could barely get by off of that money. You almost have to have a roommate or have a husband or a wife. I mean, you just can't really do it out here on your own with that kind of money. So I do think things will take a dip down, but I do want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about the real estate market? Did I miss anything that you guys wanted more information on? Let me know. But that will do it. If you like this video, then please like this video and make sure you share with your friends. And if you have nothing else going on, you know what to do. Go ahead and binge watch me. And until next time, keep your money up.